a correct action, I don't have standing to say. There's a very good quote that a friend of mine, who of all things is a Little League umpire, uses very often when one of his calls is questioned, and that's, well, okay, I appreciate your input, but what did you see from where I was standing? And generally speaking, the answer is not a damn thing, because they were in the bleachers.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, so I'm pretty much like stepping up as a follow-up, because I do not think that you understood what the guy before me asked. The problem is that your political viewpoint, your viewpoint on why you acted like you acted is highly U.S.-centric. That's the point. It's not about that you want to, whatever, it's U.S.-centric. It's, I'm from Europe, I do not care shit about the U.S. government, and actually I do not care, and I don't give a shit about my government, because I think that nation states are crap, okay? And we should not in any way support nation states in whatever they do in their bullshit, okay? I mean, we are a community of hackers. We are internationalists, okay? And we should work together and cooperate and not just like blame some guy because he actually really did the right thing. The right thing means, I mean, we didn't start the stupid war here. Come on, it's their shit they did, okay?
All right. Be quiet back there.
So, I might sound a little bit naive here, but I think that we should focus on an international point of view and not about what's good for the United States, okay? Yeah.
All right, next question, so more people get a chance.
I'm going to respond quickly, briefly to that and say I don't support every action that the United States takes, and you know what? That's my right as a citizen of this country to do. And in a lot of countries, that would get you a bullet to the head. If I seem like I'm focusing on the United States, that might have something to do with the fact that I'm an American citizen. My dad's a dual national. I've lived overseas, but we're sitting in a hotel that is, last time I checked, was located in the United States of America, that has afforded us the opportunity to have this conference, even though a lot of people in the government don't really understand what we're about and somehow see us as a threat. And despite that, we have the freedom to hold this conference, to have talks about things that to the uninformed observer would sound threatening. And that's not something that you get in a lot of places. So I think that that's pretty darn cool to have as an opportunity in this country.
Okay, next question. Go ahead.
Hi, Adrian. I'm under the impression that you could be culpable if it came back, you know, if somehow if they realized that this person was doing it by other means, they would have figured it out eventually, possibly, through other investigations, and then they would have seen a chat log to you, and then you could have been culpable, you know, criminally for this also, it seems to me. Was that a part of your thinking?
You know what? I'm not a jurist. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge. I don't have the legal background to be able to say whether or not that would have been the case. My first reaction and my main reaction was, holy fracking crap, 260,000 documents. You think that you could look through those and say that they're not going to cause anybody's life to be lost, or our ability to try and make the world a better place, which we do in a lot of ways. We provide aid to other countries. We also make the world a worse place in some ways, but we're not a perfect nation. No nation is perfect.
We actually have something on the screen right now that is amazingly apropos here. Bernie, you want to explain what this misprison, whatever word that is?
Misprision of a felony. It's United States criminal statute. I wanted to ask you, Adrian. I'm sorry to interrupt the next speaker here, but was your decision to do what you did influenced in any way by your potential risk liability for not telling the government what you learned because you could be criminally liable for not divulging what you were aware of?
Again, I don't have a JD and I'm not a jurist, but before all of this happened, I had never heard the term that's hard to pronounce. It's on the screen behind me.
Well, you heard of cover your ass before, though.
Yeah, I think most people in this audience have.
Or accessory after the fact?
Yeah. But again, my main reaction was holy frackin' crap, 260,000 documents. And I think that there's a reason that the keynote yesterday totally ignored that, and that's because that's much harder to get an emotional rise out of the audience when it's easy to say, I'm against murder, who's with me on that? Yeah, no on murder. It's harder to say, I'm for releasing over 250,000 diplomatic documents related to the United States and U.S. citizens. Who's with me?
Yeah, I saw that coming. Next question.
Well, thank you for establishing that you're opposed to murder. That's great. But there's something that I was unclear on. How long has it been since you've had an active restraining order against you for abusing a girlfriend? I met your ex-girlfriend. She is a lovely human being, and she told me awful things
This
about
might be delving into the personal world a little bit, but I don't know if you choose to answer that, Adrian?
I have never been served with a restraining order, and there's never been one that's been active against me.
All right, let's move on.
Kind of too bad that got cut off, but Adrian, I do take to heart what your umpire said. I do believe in it too, that I couldn't, I think you were in a very difficult position, and that if I were in that position, well, I don't feel I would have made the same decision. But knowing that you did, I can accept that you did. But I really, really hope that you can actually make some good choices coming up in the future to repair some of the damage that you have caused.
Before you walk away from the mic, apart from Mr. Manning's criminal case, could you clarify a little bit on that damage briefly? Because I'm not clear on where...
From my perspective, I see what you have done as treason.
All right, next question.
Hi, Adrian. Digital communication seems to allow us these days the possibility, although perhaps not easily, to take our identities and to separate them. They start to spread apart. We can take that option. We can take the option to be different people, to act different ways. They all see us differently. You have identified with a broader social American identity. I was wondering, what do you think about ethics, morals, guiding principles for your identity? Does it need to be cohesive? Does it need to be singular?
I don't believe that I have standing to speak to that. And I also don't necessarily know that I understand the question. Could I trouble you to very briefly rephrase it?
Very briefly.
Hypothetically, if you could imagine someone like you that had heard this, could you imagine a part of yourself that would have had the choice not to tell?
Yes, I can. I'll admit that it's unabashedly selfish of me to say this, given what I've said, but I wish to hell that Bradley Manning had never said a word to me. It's been, obviously it's been much worse for him, but it's certainly been no picnic for me, and I knew from the get-go that it was going to be a low point in my interactions with the community, and
Yet you could have ignored him. When he first contacted you, you were not obliged to ever answer him. You could have simply ignored him. None of this ever would have happened.